So, May el Toukhy, welcome. Thank you for being here. Want to dive right in. It's a film with a very sort of volatile subject, the relation between a stepmother and a stepson. What prompted you to go into that? Why did you want to make a film about this?
Actually, in the beginning, my idea was to create a film that is focusing on the making of a family secret, and then that can be many different stories. But then at the same time, me and my writer Louise Kene, we had this discussion about the narrative that. The narrative between like stepmother and stepson differs very much from the narrative between a stepfather and stepdaughter. And so we discussed this back and forth. How come the relationship between a stepmother and a stepson is always like over-romanticized, even though it's not a stepmother and a stepson, but like a teacher and a pupil? And we kind of wanted to look into that. And so we combined these two streaks and made this movie.
So it's really about a power dynamic between these two characters.
Yeah.
So how did you work on creating those two opposites?
Gustav and Anne. Yeah. So actually, we found it very natural because there's so much documentation on this subject, like where one character is dominating another, and it doesn't really. Some of the dynamics are so basic, and some of them are also dynamics that are existing in families, like completely normal families, where there's like a way of the world in a family, and someone is on top and someone is down, and these positions can shift all the time. So we read a lot of material on families, but we also read a lot of specific material on assault and abuse, both the assaulter but also the victim, in order to kind of shape the character. One thing that we didn't do that much is that we didn't look to other films, because sometimes I find that to be disturbing. Like I don't want to lean into another director's work, you know. I want to be free of that. So we read a lot of articles, and we talked to a therapist and about the dynamics of these kinds of relationships, and also we watched documentaries and like gathered a lot of material, and out of that we kind of drew the characters.
This type of dynamic has been being talked about a lot these days.
Yeah.
With the Me Too movement, everything that goes with that.
Yeah.
But usually the gender roles are inverted.
Yeah.
Compared to what you're showing in the film. Was that important to you to have a female character be the dominant one in this case?
Yeah, I think for me, the Me Too movement is not about gender. It's about power and power structures, and so the gender becomes not relevant, or should not be relevant. But I know that at this point in time there's like a focus on the male predator and the female victim, because it's so taboo the other way around, and it's something that is not I think for many men it's very shameful to admit that at some point in time they were doing something with maybe an older woman or a teacher or whatever, like the sister of a friend, but that they were not really up to. And so we have to with this film I really wanted to kind of open the doors into that and give a voice to this to this theme, because I find that the structures are the same, even though it looks different when it's a male victim.
Then there's sort of a challenge for the audience, how far you go along with Anne in the film, how far you follow her, and at what point you say, here I can't recognize what she's doing anymore. I've talked about it with a few people. Everybody seems to have a different point where they leave it. Do you find this as well?
Yeah, for me, and that's like really interesting, because I think it has to do with like your own experience in life or your own moral compass, and I don't find that because someone gets off at like first turning point, like within like the first 30 minutes, that's okay for me, and it's also okay in the middle. I think making the film, the point where I step down, like step away, it has become more and more early in the film, because also we even though the idea that he's being dominated is most like prominent in the middle of the film, and from that point and out, I of course see all the small, I connect all the dots all the way through. So I see, even like in some of the first scenes, I see her dominant nature, but she's using it for the good. Mm. So she's like protecting people who doesn't have a voice, like children and a girl that is assaulted. But also there's something in the way she acts in these scenes that has this kind of predatory nature in a way. And that's another theme, very strong theme for me in this film, that people who have these tendencies or kind of takes one step after another that leads them to fatal consequences, they can at the same time do a tremendous amount of good. So it's not like, for me, she's not like an evil person. I really tried to make her someone that we could identify with all the way through, even though I know people, they would kind of step away from her. And I find that so fascinating when I talk to the audience and find out like what was the specific point where I'm not in and I'm out now. So, and that differs very much. For some people it's almost, it never happens. They're with her to the end. For some it's the middle, for some it's the third act. So
you also don't give too much background to her past, whatever may have happened. To create the person she is now. Did you discuss that in the writing? Did you discuss this with your actress Trine Dyrholm?
Yeah, we discussed that a lot, because it's a tricky balance doing a film like this, because I don't want to excuse her behavior. It is what it is, and I want to look at that, and I don't want to be judgmental, but also I don't want to promote this kind of behavior. So that choice kind of colored the whole production, also in the way we shot it and the way we scored music. But for me, I think for me, I made like I needed to have a background, a backstory for her. And so also I talked to this therapist that was our consultant during the writing and also during the shooting. And she said that usually people that does these kind of things and have this dominant nature, they have baggage. But I didn't want to front load that baggage, also because I want there to be space for the audience to fill in their own, like with their own images and their own pictures in the backstory. So me and Trine, we talked her background through the character's background, and I gave her some specific images and some specific backstory. But Trine is also an actor who, in order to keep on producing and keep on delivering, like take after take after take, she has to grow her own images. And sometimes it differs with actors if they need to be feeded all the time, or you can kind of make a kickoff and then she can create her own images that allows her to continuously kind of do the scenes over and over again. So we definitely had a story that Anne had some harsh experience, and most of all, she didn't deal with these experiences, because that was when we did the research, I found out that a lot of people working with, for example, young people that are in trouble or that like do a lot of good for others, they think that because they work with others, they kind of work their way through their own hurt. But the fact is that you have to kind of look into that for real, and you have to maybe go to therapy and work your way through your own baggage in order to be free of that. And so basically it's like hurt people are hurting others, and that's the basis of her character.
So you didn't have a sort of very definite story what the past was
that
you shared with...
No, I did. Yeah, I had a story, a definite story. that I used and she used. And then eventually you have to kind of set it free, because the actor needs their own images to create. Do you want to hear the story?
If you want. If you think
maybe it's a shame.
Relevant. As you say, there's also a power in letting the audience figure it out for themselves, right?
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
So let's leave it there. I'm curious about working with your actors a little bit more.
Yeah.
Trine, of course, is a very experienced actress.
Yeah.
Opposite her, the younger actor must have been, even if he is already a little experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted, Trine was connected to the project or attached to the project very early on. And I worked with Trine before on several occasions, and I knew she could do this, and she really wanted to do this part. So, and then afterwards we had to cast Gustav, and that was a challenge, because I wanted a trained actor, because of the nature of the scenes. Like that, there's so much work to do for this actor, and it needs to be someone who has the tools to do that, and also to play opposite Trine, because she has this amazing cinematic presence that, people just become grays in the background if they don't own it. So we found this Gustav, and he was 22 at the time, and he became 23, and he went to the National Theatre School of Sweden, and so he had some experience, but still he's a young actor just straight out of school. And so the way I work is that I do very intense and long, and over a long period of time, castings. So the casting is I see the casting process as I'm casting them, but they should also cast me, because I have a specific way of working, and I want them to know what they're getting into, and that I keep searching, and I search the material over and over again, and so they have to love that process, So once we chose him, he came to Denmark to stay, and then we rehearsed for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. So we have a script, which is not the finished script, but with all the scenes that we think is going to be part of the story. And then we rehearse them intensively, and my writer, Maren-Louise Kane, comes into the rehearsal room maybe 2 days a week, and we go through what we've learned, and we kind of explore the material. And then after that, we do a rewrite, and from then on, I don't change a whole lot shooting. Of course, sometimes there's a scene in first act that you have to do a rewrite, and that means that you have to do a rewrite on another scene that is connected to that scene, and we do stuff like that. But it's not like an improvised process for me. I kind of move the playground work out of the shooting period and into the rehearsal room. That doesn't mean that, I think one of the most important thing as a director is that the ability to be spontaneous and to kind of see something like I want to shoot it in this room instead of this room. So we do that a lot, but I need to be well prepared in order to be free.
Can you give an example of something that you found during that rehearsal process that's now in the film?
There's a scene where Anne and Trine Dyrholm and her husband are confronting Gustav with the stories he told, or what they consider to be a story, or what they decided is a story he told, a lie he told. And so in that process, there was like a really long table in the rehearsal room that we moved aside so that we had space on the floor, and that table was really big. And when I envisioned the scene, I thought that they were going to sit quite close, that they were going to sit like besides each other in a sofa, or he was going to be close. But seeing them like on each side of this huge table kind of inspired me to create a scene shooting where there's a lot of space between the characters. Also because it becomes more a trial situation, and this character is a lawyer, so I kind of wanted to imitate that, like the physicality of being on trial. And that came out of just, I really hated this table because it was so big in the rehearsal room, and everyone was like, can you pass me the something, you know, the coffee or whatever. So so in that sense, it gave us a gift. And sometimes it is like that, or often it is like that. Also when you shoot, that there is a mistake or something is wrong, and sometimes that is actually a blessing, because if you take that and use it creatively, you can come up with something that is even more unique than the things you could have thought of.
So the distance you have in that scene for me is really a big counterpoint to the great intimacy in the sex scenes, especially the intimacy between Gustav and Anne. Could you say a bit about the sex scenes, not the sensationalize them,
and like the making of them, or
the making, but also there's a very clear development in them.
Yes.
The way I saw it.
Yeah, that's true. So we wanted to make this. Our ambition was to create a story where you like her in the beginning, and you want her to succeed in whatever endeavor she has, and part of that adventure is like seducing him. So some people, they lean into the idea that it's okay actually for her to be with him because they like each other, and it's mutual, and he's not like he's almost a man. He's 17, so in the middle, like when they have sex for the first time, it becomes like very, very brutal in the way it's shot, and it's not that the sex has brutality in it, but it's pure lust for both of them, and it's very explicit. And so I wanted kind of to shock myself and to shock the audience, because I wanted this to happen, and now it's happening, and then I'm not sure if I wanted it to look that way or to happen that way. And then eventually, like, each sex scene after that evolves into becoming more and more intimate and more pure, in a sense. And that I wanted to, by doing that, I wanted to kind of mirror the emotional journey of the two characters, because at this time in the story, at this point in the story, they actually think it's, you know, it's okay, and this will work out, and this is true. This is true because it feels this way and it looks this way. And so gradually the sex becomes more and more poetic, one would say, and until it kind of blows everything up.
Let's not spoil too much about
that.
Leave some more
space
for the audience. So
you can just cut this out if it doesn't. You'll find out.
Figure it out. Yeah. So the film is here screening in the big screen competition.
Yeah.
Screening in Rotterdam. What do those things mean for you? What's the competition slot and being in Rotterdam?
Yeah, I'm so. It's my first time here, and I just feel so honored to be here. It's a great festival, and it's so. I think the programmers have really good taste, not because of me, like, but like all the films here are like really interesting, and they're bold. Like they take on films that challenge the audience, and I find I respect that a lot. And the big screen competition, I think it's an amazing concept, because sometimes as a filmmaker you forget that in the festival circuit that the reason that you wanted to tell the story in the first place is to have an audience, or the story. For me, at least, it is like a story doesn't mean anything if no one is listening. It's like being at a party and no one to talk to, because this guy on this side doesn't want to talk to you. And this, like, you wanna engage. I wanna engage my audience, and therefore the big screen competition for me was like the perfect spot, the sweet spot, because I really want I'm really keen on doing films that they might be you know, people might find it provoking or controversial or whatever. I don't see it that way. I see, like, I set out to tell a story that is concerning all of us and that has great importance in this point, like in this time.
All right, thank you so much for taking the time
You're welcome.
to sit with us, and
Great.
good luck with the competition.
Thank you. Thank you.